Terry Dorsey's Evangelist and Data Architect for Denodo. Terry, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining me today. What are the most effective strategies that the Navy and Marine Corps can employ as they're going on their digitization, modernization journeys?
Yeah, thank you. It's good for me to be here as well, right? So I'm going to start with what I think I'm going to start from a challenge perspective, right? So I think when I talk to a lot of agencies or people that are in that space, and I would also say it's pretty much familiar for commercial spaces as well. There's this idea of interoperability, distributed agencies, organizations, what have you. And so there's this idea of how do we actually acquire this way of communicating information out, but keep autonomy across the rest of my organizations, and it's very strongly in the federal space. So what I would say to that, with the advent of things like just specifically generative AI, which is hastening a lot of movement around that. And so to me, there's this idea of centralizing meaning and doing it in such a way that the consumer is agnostic, right? And so this idea of creating abstractions of organizations, be it components, relationships, basically creating the semantics. And I'm going to call it a core, because a lot of people, when they think about semantics, they think about very granular things. I'm going to say a core parts of your organization or enterprise, and governing that and making it available to agnostic consumers. And I think that is pretty much positioning organizations and agencies to take advantage of many modern technologies down the road as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that concept applies to commercial organizations as well. Do you get a sense that the department is really putting its money where its mouth is when it says it's interested in knowing what's available in the commercial sector and how it might apply to mission sets inside the building?
Yeah, for sure, I would agree, because typically commercial organizations move fast, the monetary incentives to do so. And so when they move fast, they fail fast, and there's a lot of lessons that are learned. And in some instances, commercial organizations can learn a lot from government organizations, their idea around planning and strategy prior to movement, right? And so if we could marry those two and figure out how to speed up those processes, I think both types of organizations can learn from each other in that regard.
What do you see moving forward as the markers that organizations should use inside the building to determine we're on the right track with this digitization, modernization effort, or we've maybe veered in a direction that we want to try to recalibrate?
You mean as far as measurement?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. Many organizations, particularly in the commercial space, when they do modernization and transformation projects, unfortunately, a lot of times that focus is more on the technology, that maybe, to your point, more so than how it is translated out to business outcomes as to how things move forward. So I think that aligning it with business objectives for what you want outside of that transformation helps greatly in that regard.
You mentioned generative AI in particular, and a lot of conversation here about artificial intelligence generally. I haven't detected a whole lot of people thinking about Gen AI as kind of a separate or a piece inside the broader artificial intelligence table. What would you encourage DoD organizations to think about regarding Gen AI in particular as they try to move out more on it, seeing efforts like GenAI.mil and so on?
Right, so when it comes to generative AI, and it's interesting, I just had a conversation similar to this with another customer. I think the big takeaway for me that I would say is that it's different than traditional, not in basically how it's, but the models are provided, and it's now what is the data that you're actually working with that model with. Whereas before, you did have to provide data, but it was structured. You understood the inputs and outcomes. So when it comes to generative AI, it's more around how do I package knowledge so that I can drive intent, understand intent, and drive outcomes based off of that. And so I think that understanding the differences in how those technologies work would move things a lot of, you can't do things the way you do with traditional AI. You can't stage a lot of data sets and things like that because you're imagining what's happening prior to some of the inputs that are coming in. So I think it takes a different approach to how you model information and present it out.